What's up? This is Patrick Haize. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, in this video, what I want to talk about is trust. How to develop trust in relationships. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about this is because this is probably one of the most common comments that I see on my videos where I'm talking about relationships. I'll be talking about how to develop deeper communication skills, how to be more intimate, and people will say, I have trust issues. What do I do if I have trust issues? So I wanted to make this video for people that have trust issues and also for people that are looking how to build deeper trust in their current relationships. Because you don't need to have trust issues to want to build deeper trust. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the 3 different reasons why people lie in the first place. Why there might be some activity going on that is creating a lack of trust. And then I'm going to talk about some really powerful techniques for being able to create the kind of environment where trust is safe in a relationship, and also how to account for and deal with some of the trust issues that we may have developed at some point in our life that is preventing us from being able to trust in the relationships that we are in. Okay, so the 3 different reasons why people lie in the first place. Why there may be a reason not to trust somebody. And the first reason is because people might have shady morals, right? Now this is probably the worst case scenario, but there are people out there that don't really view honesty as an asset. They think of honesty as more of a liability. They think of honesty as something that's not really that important. And if somebody has shady morals, if lying is just part of the way that they like to operate in order to get over on people because they want to, take the most out of people that they can, or they just don't really care about other people's feelings, then this is the kind of person that you don't want to be in relationship with, right? So the first kind, being shady morals, this is like just get out of there, right? You don't want to be involved with people that are shady like that. And it's not worth trying to fix someone or get them to feel guilty about lying if that's just a part of their makeup. So if you can feel into that person, you just feel like, listen, that's just how they operate. They lie to other people. They're just a lying person and they're all about themselves. They're narcissistic. They don't really care about when they get caught in a lie. They don't really care about the fact that they hurt somebody. They just are kind of pissed off that they got caught. If it's that kind of a person, then it's just like, get away from that. That's not a healthy relationship. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 why people lie is because they don't feel safe telling the truth. And this is a very different circumstance, but this is really, really common. And this is actually, this one and number 3 are things that can be healed, right? They can be worked through. You can't work it through with somebody that doesn't want to work it through, that's just trying to lie to get, what they want in life. But if you're in a situation with somebody that is lying because they don't feel safe, like they're afraid to speak their truth because of the consequences that may happen, but they still would like to tell the truth, they're just afraid, this is a different situation. This is something really to pay attention to, because oftentimes that's the very thing keeping somebody from telling you the truth, is that maybe your response to the truth is one of condemnation. You're really angry at them. You tell them all the things that are wrong with them. How could you think this way? How could you have this opinion? Well, if that's the kind of environment that you're in, it's gonna be really hard to tell the truth. And this happens to young children. So people develop habits of lying as young children because they know that if they say something that their parent is going to scold them for, then they'll avoid saying it. This is something I had going on when I was a kid. I would have been honest with my parents about the drugs and the alcohol and a lot of the negative things I was doing as a young child if I knew they wouldn't judge me for it or get mad at me for it, but rather just hear me out and talk it through with me. Then we would have been able to stay close. We would have been able to develop that trust because there was a safe space to express myself. And then through that developed trust, we would be able to continue our relationship as opposed to me having to kind of split away and lie to them in order to feel safe. So if you have a relationship where you find yourself in the kind of role where when somebody tells you the truth about something and you don't like what they hear and your response is anger to it, then you might want to think about how you're responding and how to create a safe space so that people feel safe expressing their truths so that truth can be respected in the environment. And I'll go more into this in a little bit. But the third reason why people commonly lie is because people don't want to hurt you. They don't want to hurt the other person. This is a really common reason for why people lie. You could say that this is similar, like they don't feel safe, but it's a slightly nuanced difference when somebody is lying to avoid hurting you. This is a situation that takes a little bit of a different way of mitigating. See, the failed understanding there, though, is that by lying to somebody, you're just postponing the hurt till later, right? Because eventually the truth is the truth, and it is going to be exposed in one way or another, right? And so by lying to somebody or not telling them the truth, even if you're trying to spare them, right, it actually oftentimes results to be more painful for that person by lying to them. Now, this doesn't mean you have to run around and be blunt and use truth in a unresponsible way, right? So people can use truth like a weapon, right? They can take a fact, right, and then they can use it against someone to hurt someone. This is not what I'm saying when I say that you want to be honest with people. What I'm saying is that if there's something that is bothering you in the relationship, there's something that you can't get over it within yourself, but you're not telling the other person because you're afraid of hurting them, you're actually making the situation worse by doing that. And this is a practice of you being able to be more assertive and speak out and own your truth and express that, and know that actually by doing that, you are doing the other person a service. Because truth is more valuable than a compassionate lie. And that's something to take into consideration. Truth is more valuable than a compassionate lie. It might feel uncomfortable in the moment to make somebody feel upset, right? Maybe feel uncomfortable for you. Maybe you're an empath, right? So you don't want to feel that. But really, that's an act of selfishness if what you're doing by not telling them the truth is perpetuating an energy field knot, perpetuating some sort of disruptance inside the energy field because you're withholding something that needs to be expressed. These are the three main reasons why people lie. And this is why it's so important to create a safe space in your relationships for communication, right? There needs to be an agreement between the people in the relationship that regardless of whether it's going to be painful for you, I'm going to promise that I will express what my truth is and I will be honest with you. And I also need to be sure that I am creating a safe space for you to express your truth too. Because the only way to truly have a deep, profound, intimate relationship that's functional is to have a safe space to be able to communicate these things. Now, this doesn't mean triggers are not going to come up. This doesn't mean the stuff isn't going to be difficult sometimes to hear or to say to people or to watch the other person feel upset about what you're saying. But there needs to be a dedication from both people to choose the truth first, to choose the truth over reactions, to choose the truth over the fear of hurting someone else or being hurt, right? This is really important to choose truth first. And then to create a safe space where once that's expressed, that we can actually be compassionate and work with each other as we're going through the process of processing whatever kind of difficult information may come forward. And this involves doing a lot of personal work, right? So it doesn't end there. There's a lot of personal work, and I can make other videos about dealing with these kinds of things. But the most important thing is coming to that agreement between each other that we're going to agree to truth regardless of, they call it radical truth regardless of the kind of emotional stirring that it may create. So now what I want to talk about is trust issues. So we talked about creating safe space so that we could build trust in a relationship, right? But what happens when we have trust issues? What if we've been traumatized? What if we've been betrayed in the past? We feel like we've been betrayed and now we don't know if we can trust anyone. Well, one of the things to realize is that if you've been betrayed in the past, you've been abandoned, or you have trust issues, is that paranoia is a side effect of that, right? And the issue with operating from a paranoid space is that when you operate from a paranoid space with a partner, especially a love partner, especially having to do with jealousy regarding whether the person's cheating or not, is oftentimes what happens is you can end up creating a scenario where the other person does end up cheating on you when that actually wasn't ever going to happen if you weren't so paranoid about it. In other words, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And what I mean by that is that if you have trust issues and you're always stressing on someone about something or always giving them the impression that you think that they're cheating, oftentimes that person will eventually get resentful that you're doing that and feel like, well, listen, if they're treating me as if I'm cheating already, that makes me more tempted to cheat, right? So this is oftentimes how you can create a self-fulfilling prophecy and actually influence somebody else to cheat or be dishonest with you because you're treating them as if they do. So it's important to realize that paranoia is a side effect of trauma. So part of your personal work is to, and this is probably why most people get really paranoid, is because they can't control their mind. So the personal work is to, when your partner is gone, not visualize them doing all of these shady things, not visualize them lying to you, right? So paranoia operates kind of like it's like a vibration knot in your body that perpetuates thoughts of suspicion regarding the other person, right? So you have to realize that there's this thing that is causing all these thoughts to generate because of a trauma knot that you have in you. Now, doing work to release that trauma is its own thing. But one thing you have, which I can't put all in this video, but what I can say is that one of the main goals that you should have if you're extremely paranoid and you're thinking a lot about your partner that is like cheating on you or lying to you is to be aware of your thinking. And when you find yourself thinking about that kind of stuff, realize that you're probably paranoid and that this paranoia is getting in the way of your sense-making skills, right? So at least acknowledge that, right? And if you can actually practice visualizing them doing something that you feel good about or that you're not suspicious about, then that can actually help you to feel more calm. And you'll notice that if you take the amount of time that you think about your partner when they're not there, if you think about them in a positive way, your paranoia will reduce drastically, right? If you think about them in a suspicious way, your paranoia is going to go up further, and further. You can create a self-fulfilling prophecy and start seeing like every little thing that they're doing fits into this story of how they're lying to you in some way. Now, this doesn't mean that the other person isn't necessarily being dishonest. This is not what it means. But what I'm saying is that part of what you need to do if you do have trauma and you're being really paranoid about your partner is you need to give them the space to hurt you if that's what they're going to do. You need to give them the space to do that, because if you don't give them the space and you smother them with your paranoia all the time, you're going to drive them away or you're going to push them into cheating on you or lying to you, right? So what you need to do is actually give them the space to hurt you, right? And think positively about them. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, I'm not saying to bury your head in the sand. Don't become an ostrich and bury your head in the sand. If somebody's obviously lying to you, acknowledge that. But you want to kind of find the spot in between being an ostrich and burying your head and being like Sherlock Holmes, trying to figure out the clues all the time. You want to find the healthy balance in between those two. So you're aware, you're conscious, you're not an idiot, right? But you're not always thinking about how to solve the case and how they could have, if they timed things right, slipped in all of these different covert activities. And getting into that whole space is just an unhealthy space to be in. And what this will require is developing mindfulness, becoming more mindful about what thoughts you're having and how to modulate your thinking so that if you find yourself spiraling into this suspicion spiral, that you can back out of the paranoia and then you can say, listen, I know that due to my past, I'm paranoid about this stuff, so let me visualize positive things about this person. And then don't bury your head in the sand. If it's obvious that things are going on, then work with your partner to create a safe conversation space, like I mentioned earlier, so these kinds of things can be brought up. But you don't want to bulldoze the other person with your paranoias and suspicions all the time, because that's going to create resentment and it's eventually going to drive you apart. So that's what I have for you today. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention before I go is I am now officially offering relationship mentorship. So if this is something that sounds interesting to you, if you want to get deeper into this topic or a variety of different topics regarding developing more intimate, deep, and meaningful relationships, please send me a message. You can leave a message either underneath this video, or ideally, you can send me a message at patrick@patrickhaize.com, and we can talk about having a quick, free 15-minute call where we can go into depth about the kinds of goals that you have in your relationship and how to achieve those goals. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is Patrick Haize, and I'll talk to you next time. One love.